Good morning, good afternoon from the Fidelity Financial Inclusion webinar. We apologize for the late start. Once again, welcome to the Fidelity Financial Inclusion webinar series in conjunction with Financial Inclusion Forum Africa and Financial Inclusion Africa. This year, we are privileged to be part of the Financial Inclusion Week 2021. My name is William Durban, and I am the chair of the Financial Inclusion Forum Africa. The forum is a network of people who are passionate about promoting financial inclusion across Africa. Please join us online and follow us on social media. We have two other events this week as part of the Financial Inclusion Week on fraud and data protection. So please use the same link as you've done today to join us on Wednesday and on a session on e-currencies through the Financial Inclusion Forum website. And so do not forget to register for these events. So on to today's event. Today we have an exciting event on building resilient, inclusive financial ecosystems in uncertain times. The COVID pandemic has had an adverse impact on the economies of many countries in Africa. The lockdowns, the restrictions have affected many jobs, especially among low-income workers and traders. For many, lockdowns and restrictions mean a loss in livelihood, with the risk of them sliding deeper into poverty and into financial inclusion. In these uncertain times, financial service providers, innovators, policymakers, and regulators have played an important role in ensuring that people are able to use financial services. Technology has been central in ensuring that people are able to access their money through agent models and transact safely through digital wallets. COVID-19 is not the last pandemic the world will face, sadly. What is important is how we ensure that people are resilient and do not fall back into exclusion in times of uncertainty. This session aims to look at some of the current solutions that are being put in place to ensure that people are financially resilient to such shocks in the future. And today I have an exciting panel of experienced people who would be talking to us this morning. We have AC Mills Robertson. AC is the Director, Inclusive Banking at Fidelity Bank Limited, spearheading the financial inclusion agenda. AC is also a marketeer. She was the head of marketing at Fidelity Bank, and she has experience from Unilever and Deloitte and Touche. Second, we have Geraldine O'Keefe, who is the Chief Innovation Officer and co-founder of Software Group. Now, Software Group is a global technology company specialized in digitization and integration solutions for financial service providers. And through her leadership, Software Group has completed several implementations empowering financial sector players or banks to reach the unbanked. And last but not least, we have Mr. Eli Hini, who is the Chief Executive Officer for Mobile Money Limited, the MTN Ghana subsidiary responsible for mobile money financial services. Eli was instrumental in setting up the mobile money services in Ghana and growing the subscriber base and transaction volumes and value. And I remember working very closely with Eli earlier on in the day, spending time with the Central Bank, the Bank of Ghana, trying to put the mobile money and business up and running. Eli is also a chartered marketeer with 18 years experience and has held positions with Unilever Ghana and Coca-Cola Bottling Company. Panelists, you are welcome.
Thank you.
But before we go, thank you. But before we go into the business of the day, we would like to show a short video from Fidelity Bank, who is sponsoring our event this week. Thank you.
Over the years, Ghana has made great strides in the economy with youth entrepreneurship and technological innovation. The push for digitization of the economy is also in keeping pace with the rest of the world. It is no wonder that in 2019, the World Bank adjudged Ghana as the fastest growing mobile money market in Africa. However, Ghana risks a slowdown in growth if the numbers of the unbanked or underbanked remain at current levels. The government aims to reach 85% financial inclusion by 2023, catching up with success stories like Rwanda, where more than 9 in 10 of their citizens have access to formal and informal financial services. When Fidelity Bank rolled out a system in 2013 where anyone could perform basic banking duties at the community pharmacy, supermarket, or barbershop, it was not just the beginning of the process to bring banking to the doorsteps of the unbanked and underbanked, but it was also the realization of the bank's commitment to championing financial inclusion. For a country where roughly 70% of the adult population is outside the formal banking sector, financial inclusion remains at the heart of the bank's vision. Indeed, Fidelity Bank has played a large part in advancing financial inclusion nationwide and across economic sectors. As the largest privately owned Ghanaian bank, Fidelity Bank has made a mark on Ghanaians overcoming two of the greatest barriers to financial inclusion: physical access and mindset change.
Globally, there's a lot of evidence that financial inclusion, which means access to financial products, meaning access to a bank account, access to loans, access to insurance products, access to any form of financial product, savings accounts, helps alleviate poverty. People who drop out of school are likely to come from poor homes, who are likely to come from backgrounds where they don't have access to financial services. So there's a whole global movement to promote financial inclusion. And when we began the bank in about 2006, less than 25% of Ghanaians had access to financial products and services, had a bank account, could access a loan product and other financial products. So we took this on as an important objective of the bank, being the largest Ghanaian bank, to make Ghana more financially inclusive. When we set out to create Fidelity Bank, our vision was to create a world-class Ghanaian bank. And the purpose of that world-class Ghanaian bank was to contribute significantly towards socio-economic development in Ghana. So that was the why. That was why we woke up to go to work. And we identified a number of areas where we could intervene in this socio-economic development. One was financial inclusion. The next pillar was supporting SMEs, small and medium-scale enterprises. The next pillar was to contribute towards the infrastructure deficit. We have financed 5 out of the last 10 power projects in Ghana. This includes Athol Energy, it includes Gensa Power, it includes the Pony Thermal Power Plant, and also include the GCAD Senate Power Plant in Tema. In addition to power, we've been involved in housing. We finance Manette Village, Manette Cottage, we finance Villaggio Vista, and we've supported a lot of Ghanaians with mortgages. By contributing with these initiatives, we're really helping to solve socio-economic challenges and development challenges of Ghana.
With the establishment of Fidelity's Inclusive Banking Department, whose mandate is to drive the bank's financial inclusion agenda, Fidelity Bank was stating its intent to bring aboard those who were either skeptical of the banking system or were simply used to functioning outside of the banking system.
Digitization and technology has helped the bank leapfrog some of the obvious barriers with regards to driving financial inclusion. Some of these barriers are cost to serve and cost to acquire. By leveraging on the increased penetration of mobile phones, we've been able to deliver platforms that enable us to do these two things seamlessly and enhance the engagement levels with that target group.
In 2017, Software Group, a global technology company specializing in digitalization and integration solutions for financial service providers, seamlessly migrated Fidelity's inclusive banking customers and agents onto Fidelity Bank's core banking system. Transactions, agent management, and administration were then fused together and hosted on the Agent Management System (AMS) that Software Group developed.
Since the founding of Software Group over a decade ago, critical to our mission and our vision is the acceleration of digital technologies that will advance financial inclusion and inclusive banking. So for us, it was a really excellent fit, and we were really excited to get on board. Agency in particular is something that is really core to our expertise. So yeah, it was a perfect match. Markets are things that change really fast. And I think Ghana in particular is a very dynamic market, especially in the digital field. There's a lot of innovation and there's a lot of players and stakeholders in the market. So, you know, a scope that you may consider in 2017 when we first started, you know, may need changes along the way and continuous improvements to keep up with the market and stay ahead of the market. Some of the challenges were, no, we can't just look at this as something that starts here and ends here. We have to have this sort of continuous improvement dynamic. And I think what we've tried to do is introduce a lot more agile methodology with Fidelity Bank as our partner to implement those continuous improvements at a pace that makes sense for their clients and for the market. The digital banking platform is really the innovation. On one side of the spectrum, you have a feature phone user who is completely unbanked. In the middle of the spectrum, you have a feature phone user who maybe has a mobile banking account but nothing else. They're sort of semi-banked. And you also have smartphone users who have everything at the touch of their, you know, at the tips of their fingers. Agency is actually a solution where all of them share common ground. They can all interact with an individual, but those touch points can be spread dramatically. And when you have a platform backing that up, you can then use that really great baseline that you've created through multiple agent touch points that enable all of these individuals to sort of get the services that they need and even graduate along that sort of continuum of digitalization. And then you add value-added services to that, right? So then you can put more services onto that platform, which then sort of allows people to access better and better, you know, financial services, financial products, or even other value-adding services that may not be directly related to banking at agent locations. And I think for us, it's really that digital banking platform concept that allows you to evolve off of the great baseline that you can create through all of these touch points that service, you know, an entire market.
Fidelity Bank became the first financial institution licensed by the Bank of Ghana to undertake the agency banking model in Ghana back in 2013. From a modest pilot of 24 agents and about 30,000 smart accounts in 2013, the bank's move into agency banking has steadily evolved into a major undertaking with approximately 5,000 agents dotted around the country today.
Financial inclusion is very important for the Bank of Ghana. Our mandate is to promote macroeconomic stability through promoting price stability and financial stability. To be able to build an economy that is strong and resilient, and that is also broad-based in terms of the participants in the economy, we believe that making sure that every Tom, Dick and Harry who is within Ghana has access to good financial services. We put in place the framework and we expect banks to take advantage of it. Fidelity has, to my knowledge, about 4,000 of these agents. It's deployed across the country that are mobilizing deposits on a daily basis from active members of the communities who are doing business. And so we definitely believe that it is in the right direction. What this does is that we're promoting access for everyone who would normally need the services of a bank, who may be too intimidated to walk into a bank branch, assuming there's even a bank branch close to them. And what we're doing with these, with banks like Fidelity deploying 4,000 agents, means that jobs are created for 4,000 people at least in the case of Fidelity. And this really is very important. What we also find is that a lot of these agents tend to be women, and that also helps to promote access to finance for women, which is also a key theme under the Bank of Ghana's financial inclusion work.
A financially inclusive nation is a thriving nation. Fidelity Bank has taken the first steps to combine the formal and informal sectors of the economy to change the face of banking at the community level across Ghana. When local businesses grow, we all grow, because together we are more. Become a Fidelity Bank agent or patronize one near you today. Agency banking is powered by Software Group. Fidelity Bank. Believe with us.
Thank you very much for this excited video. And I'll start the questions with Essie. Essie, congratulations on the 15th anniversary for Fidelity Bank and the celebration of your Financial Inclusion Month. And we are really excited by the interesting things that you've shown us on the video. So over the years, what has been the most exciting achievement for you in the financial inclusion space?
Thank you very much, William, and thank you for having me. I think that over the 15 years that the bank has been in existence, you know, at the time we came into the existence 2007, there were only about 25% of the country which was banked, and it was our aim to make sure that we bring both the formal sector and the informal sector into the street so that we can extend our tentacles everywhere. And I think that our aim was mainly to contribute to the socio-economic development of the nation as we go along. And I think we have been able to achieve that. We started work on the financial inclusion agenda in the bank. We have supported SMEs to a large extent. And also we have done a lot of work in other fields in the infrastructure, etc. of the country. And if you look at it, during this time, we have chalked as a bank many successes. At least in the banking field, we can say that we are the first bank that worked with the BOG to roll out a low KYC product in 2013. We're also the first bank to start the whole agency banking agenda in 2013 also. And from there were a lot of learnings that we supported the BOG with when it came to times for them to release learnings for the agency banking sector. We were there also supporting them. And I think that we have done so many works. In 2017, we pioneered and we worked with MTN, Ellie's business, to be able to come up with a savings product, a new savings product on their Momo platform called Yellow Save. And there also we have over 650,000 customers on this platform. So I think that there have been quite a number of successes for us as a bank, and we are very proud of where we have gotten to. But we think that there's a lot more that can be done in innovation and technology to drive the agenda even further and make sure that every single person in Ghana is impacted and is able to come into the fold, because we know that with that they can actually better their lives. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Essie. I mean, the vision of and the passion of Fidelity Bank is really amazing, and the sort of vision that you had earlier on to try and bank as many people as possible. But the past 18 months has been sort of a different world for all of us. So what are some of the challenges that you see that your customers are facing over the past 18 months due to COVID?
I mean, due to COVID, there have been many challenges that are bottom of the pyramid customers we see them facing. I mean, you know, loss of jobs, like livelihoods are impacted either by the whole supply chain thing, lower incomes for them, inability for them to even fulfill their smallest obligations, loans, for instance, and accessibility. Now the whole factor of moving from one place to the other, be it to pay school fees for your child or for health reasons, or even for food issues, things have really changed. And then during this whole time, you realize that financial inclusions, though we were very important during this time, we still had to close the banks a little earlier than normal. And so at a point, there were long queues, observing social distancing, etc. And then even people began to think at the time that carrying cash actually spread COVID. And so there was all the talk over there that we had to minimize the use of cash as we went along and make sure that we minimize COVID spread. And then our customers began to think differently. How am I going to access my account? How am I going to open a new account? Because I can't always get up and go to the banking hall to perform these transactions? Am I even going to reactivate a dormant account? Okay, at that time, I remember in Ghana, the government started talking about stimulus package for bottom of the pyramid and asked them, people should register and be able to be a part of it. So there were a myriad of problems and people wanted to perform their basic banking services at home and in the comforts of their places, and they didn't want to go up and down, and they were thinking about all these things. And apart from that, there were numerous platforms at this time. Everybody was launching something. So our customers, feature phone holders, they become a little different, concerned. They can't use it all, and they are wondering, how do we use it? Am I able to access a loan? Do I still need a collateral? Am I able to do savings? So the whole thing was giving them some sort of a headache, if you know what I mean. And then apart from that too, some of them, I think there were a lot of issues. So if you lose your job, the next thing is, where do I move to find another job, or where do I go to be able to have a better life? So I think there were a myriad of problems that had plunged our customers over this period.
Yeah, thank you very much, AC. I like that carrying cash can increase COVID. And with all that brings the point of digitization and technology. So Geraldine, Software Group built the agency platform, a lot of the technology platform for Fidelity. During the pandemic, we have seen a rise in the use of digital. How has this impacted your business, and how are companies embracing the use of technology?
Thanks, Dr. Durbin, for that and for the invitation. Indeed, it seems a little bit maybe not fair to say, but we definitely are one of the businesses that perhaps in some ways even benefited from a pandemic, as you know, and one never really wants to admit that, but it's true that the demand for digital platforms skyrocketed, and it was overnight. Of course, a lot of people had their digital transformation plans and they had all these projects that they were going to do, but what COVID did is it fast-tracked, and people, had things that maybe they were going to launch a wallet a year from now or 2 years from now, and suddenly that became, can you get us live in 6 weeks or 8 weeks? So really in the immediate months and weeks, as everyone was locked up at home, we saw huge demand, not only around the wallet space and contactless payments, QR code based payments, things like this, where again, people were very nervous of the cash and how merchants could be accepting payments without any contact. But also we saw a lot of demand for digital onboarding. A lot of people had lost that ability to recruit new customers, be they for savings or for loans. And if you didn't have the benefit of an agent network, and your branches were closed, or perhaps the queues were quite long, that meant you couldn't originate new customers. So digital onboarding, self-onboarding was definitely one of the immediate responses. Now, what happened then is after the first few months, and as people started to come back out and interact a bit more in society, we saw other solutions coming up. Things like, again, and even to now, the demand for agency banking has been key. And we see that especially critical for the financial inclusion space, because it's all well and good for us to be pushing for digital, for us to be pushing for cashless economies, but we know that within the segment that we care about, the financial inclusion segment, they still want a human interaction. So the case is, when I go to talk to an agent, they can explain to me in a little bit more detail than perhaps I feel comfortable with reading on a mobile phone. And especially if I'm a feature phone user, I would feel quite restricted in the information that I can get. So that having some level of human contact without going into a busy branch, probably you were going to visit those merchants anyway to buy some goods, and now you could do your banking services. So we really feel that, in the last few months and to date, as I said, agency banking has been in strong demand. The other thing I think it shed light on is back office processes, because a lot of people had their channels. They had internet banking, they had mobile banking, they may have even had agency. But if their back office wasn't digitized, and if people were now working from home or limited staff in the office, the whole workflows started to slow down. So a lot of people needed refinancing of loans, and that needed to be done quickly and effectively, but obviously securely and following the right workflow processes. So digitizing back office workflows also is an area that we see a lot of uptake in over the last few months, and as I said, growing continuously now. So I think those are the main trends that we've seen. Again, wallets are everywhere, and certainly the usage of wallet. I think people have become a lot more creative in how they think about using wallet technologies.
Thank you very much, Geraldine. It's very interesting when you talk about the back office digitization, but also the digital onboarding brings in mind the issues around high touch, high tech, and high impact issues. But when you talk about wallets, then you talk about the telcos, because the telcos are the ones who have done phenomenal work in providing wallets for all of us. And so Ellie, the next question comes to you. The MTN especially, and all the other telcos have played a very important role during the pandemic, as we've also heard from Geraldine. Can you give us some examples of how you responded, or how MTN responded during the pandemic?
Thank you very much. I think to begin with, there was a lot of collaborations within the industry, starting with the regulator, who saw the need to also step in and support the whole process of digitization and getting customers to still continue to experience the financial transactions in the midst of COVID. One very important initiative was for us to review the limits of our customers in terms of their wallet limits. And that was supported by the regulator. So we increased wallet limits. In terms of daily transactions, we doubled what customers were able to do with their wallet, and also increased the monthly aggregates. We also, just like Geraldine was talking about, looked at ways of onboarding that took the personal interactions away as much as possible. So we looked at something we're calling Tier 0 wallets, where customers could use their GSM data to onboard on mobile money, but come in at a lower wallet limit. And so that you can also use that to manage any exposures. And so people felt that they needed to increase their limits to the normal, would have to do some additional KYC. And so they would have to make either we do WhatsApp interactions or WhatsApp calls where necessary, and other tools to identify, check IDs, and do those upgrades. And where it's possible for the customer to walk into a branch at the time, those additional KYC work could be done and limits increased. Then we also looked at making transaction more exciting. So we made some free P2P transactions as well to increase adoption. So I think at the industry level, we had a limit of up to 100 Ghana cedis, which in our case constituted over 90% of our activity on the platform. So these people could do daily transactions up to that amount for free. In fact, that particular initiative is still running as we speak. We extended that also to the interoperability platform, where you could send money across to other platforms. And so the free 100 daily was also extended to that, and that ran till I think sometime in July, when the operators did review their positions and adopted various forms of the same initiative to continue to drive adoption. So those were specific interventions that were implemented to improve adoption and to make customers continue to enjoy the use of digital platforms in the midst of COVID, where there were restrictions and all that. One of the other support we gave was also to expand support to our agent network, so that they also would be able to meet the growing needs of our customers. And so that was also part of the initiatives that we undertook at the time. I'd say that beyond all this, we also had to look at expanding the capacity of the platform to be able to support the growing volumes of transactions, and so that customer experience was not compromised as a result of that. And I remember from the GSM side of the business, we also set up free websites where people could access it for free to support education, online learning as well. In all this, we got support as well from the GSM regulator NTA in additional spectrum to support all this work from home and all that. So it's been collaborations across industries, support from regulators in trying to address the needs of customers.
Thank you very much, Ellie. So in your, just like Software Group, did you see a substantial or marked increase in adoption rates of mobile wallets?
Yes, we did, William, we did. We saw growth in transactions, and we also saw new customers also on board using the channels I mentioned earlier. And so we also needed to look at ways of improving experience. So I talked about the expansion of the platform, capacity, and also had some additional resources to support the customer activities, both in trade where necessary and back office where we needed to also provide support digitally to customers, because of course the restrictions did not permit us to continue to work as normal. Yeah.
No, thank you very much, Ellie. I really like the Tier 0 product because that's really increasing adoption. But back to Geraldine, just back to you. We've talked about increasing the number of people. So you've seen an increase in your business. MTN has seen an increase in the number of subscribers. So how important is it for tech providers to work within a digital ecosystem? And what challenges do you face in getting organizations to adopt technology at this time?
Right, yeah. Look, as Ellie has just said, collaboration is key, and we see exactly the same thing. And I think that, the day and age when a financial service provider tries to be all things to their customer is just gone. The truth is, we all know it takes partnerships, and it's about forming sort of the right strategic partners, whether that's, obviously with the telcos, but also with some of the fintechs who perhaps have some benefits that they can bring to the table in terms of their agility and some of the niche products that they've been able to build. So first and foremost, we really believe very strongly that the ecosystem is key. And for example, I can give from one recent implementation, again, it's a wallet, but it's in Central Asia, and we had done over 500 integrations for this wallet. And it was all about bringing to the fingertips for the customer convenience and a wealth of different products and services. So really, that is the ideal customer experience, that I have a single app. We call it the everyday app. I log on to it, and no matter what I want to do today, whether it's pay school fees, borrow, save, insurance, other product services, they're there at my fingertips. And that is only possible where an ecosystem is running behind that. Now, what does it actually take to deliver that? And that's where the challenges lie. First of all, obviously, the technology platforms that need to sit behind it, ideally with some levels of open APIs so that integrations are easily done, but also that those innovations can be continuous. I think, we often say, look, the technology isn't the hard part here. Sometimes it's the agreeing of the business behind the partnerships that people find challenging. So how do you create a win-win business case, both for, say, a smaller fintech as well as a bigger provider like Fidelity. And all of those are discussions that need to be had. But the truth is, we do see it happening time and time again, and we do believe that those models are getting easier as we see people opening up and people working in this way. So whether you have a marketplace and smaller fintechs are signing up to that, or as I said, with open APIs. So I think for sure the ecosystem is key. And I think people need to think about fully what partnerships they want to bring to the table with any of the offerings that are there. And again, the challenges, of course, I would say that the technology isn't the hard part. It's the people, the business, the adoption, the marketing, the brand behind it that really can differentiate as to whether it's going to be wildly successful or perhaps something that just trickles along.
Thank you very much, Geraldine. It's nice to note about what makes a product a success. And you've talked about the business case, brand, marketing, customer engagement, and those are all very key things. And so I'll just come on to ACU. As we've seen from the video, Fidelity has done quite a lot of innovative products in the past. So can you elaborate on some of your solutions that you've put in place over the last few months to reduce the challenges and the impacts of the uncertainty of the COVID on your customers?
No, thank you very much, William. So for us also, we try to resolve the issues of onboarding with our customers. And I have a short video on how we did this on USSD self-onboarding. If we can watch it.
Wahala no day. Opening a Fidelity Smart account is easy. Let me show you how. Dial *776# and wait for a prompt. Select option 2 to proceed. Select ID type from the options available. Enter your ID number and click on the send button. Input your date of birth, click on the send button and wait for the next prompt. Confirm your information displayed and input the initial amount to be transferred from your mobile money wallet. You will then receive a notification that the transaction is in progress. Approve the transaction. This is telco specific. Example, for MTN, wait for a prompt to approve the transaction. Input your Momo PIN and select option 1 to confirm approval. You will receive an SMS with the details of the transaction, highlighting the initial deposit into your new smart account. You will also receive an SMS with a default PIN, and you are required to change your PIN by dialing *776#. Just dial *776# and do your transfers, airtime top-ups, buy data, and so much more. Now that's smart. Welcome to the Fidelity Smart family.
So thank you very much. So for our feature phone users, this is one of the ways we came about it to onboard. We also did same for you to be able to reactivate your account *776 *77 without necessarily having to go into the banking hall, to make life much, much easier for you. And then the other thing that we did is we went with a hub and spoke method where branches were made responsible for the areas and the rural and urban areas in which we demarcated areas for them, and we tasked branch managers to go out there and open more agent accounts. And what we did was that with the long queues, etc., in the banking halls, then we'll redirect our customers to go into these agent hubs. So one, we set up new agents, bringing new jobs into the rural communities, etc. And also we directed customers to go there to be able to do your basic banking services, and that will help you to expand your business. New business people were getting more money, and this was another way for us to be able to quickly meet the needs of our customers and make them more comfortable as you go along. You know, the agents work at all times. Then the other thing that we did was with some of our smallholder farmers, etc., who had loans with us, we gave them moratoriums for them to be able to do the work at a much easier pace and then come back later and pay. I remember, I think somewhere in the Western region, there was a lady, Fatih Ibrahim. Fatih had 1 acre when she joined us, and we gave a loan of about $500, 3,000 Ghana at the time. And then what we did was we supported her during the period, and then she took the 3 months. And I can say happily that at this time she has about 3 acres now, and she's doing good business. So it's not just about the people that we are looking, but we also zooming in on women and what we can do for women and to support them. Then the bank also set up the Fidelity Young Entrepreneurial Fund, where we support our SMEs. You know, the SME is the engine of growth for any economy, and for any economy to be able to grow well, you have to support them and push them even further. So we made sure that we supported them with money to augment their capital, their working capital, so that they'll be able to grow more. And then also with the issues of migration, we partnered with UNCDF on Green to be able to stem migration from 2 key regions. We're working on the Western region, and we're also working in the Ashanti region. We worked with a tech company, Viamo, to develop a scalable financial inclusion literacy platform called Ifyenifi on 321. And there, when you go there, you'll be able to have business opportunity information, you get information on financial literacy, and you also get information on financial services, how to open an account, how to do all the things that you want to do. And what we did was, in partnering with UNCDF and Viamo, we made sure that we went into their communities, understood the needs of the community, what business thrives in the community, and then we package this and put it on the IVR platform, where you can then dial the IVR and interact with the bank as easily as that. And then you get the relevant information. So, you know, a lot of these people want to migrate, have some money, a little bit of money saved. Instead of just leaving, you can tap into this whole resource of knowledge and be able to do business where you are, because we believe that you can grow wherever you are. And we also set some of them up as agents. I know there are a few of them that are agents who are returnees, etc., so that the people will have a good feel of what it is that you can do in the community, instead of just putting your hands in the air and leaving. So quite a number of things we did to be able to make sure that our customers were more confident, we are surmounting the challenges that we're going, and as well impacting their lives one person at a time.
Thank you very much, Essie. I like the story of Fatih, and it's amazing the things that Fidelity is doing or has done in this past few months, especially on the onboarding. And we are having a few questions coming on that, and we'll come to that. Just before I come to you, Ellie, just wanted to say that we are all live on Facebook. We are also on LinkedIn. And you are listening to the Fidelity Financial Inclusion Week, Financial Inclusion Webinar Series, which is part of the Financial Inclusion Week 2021. And the topic is Building Resilient, Inclusive Financial Ecosystems in Uncertain Times. And you've been listening to Essie Mills-Robertson from Fidelity Bank, Ilihini from MTN, and Geraldine O'Keefe from Software Group. So, and also, please start putting your questions down. We've got a few questions that on Facebook, so please keep them coming. So, Ellie, what challenges do you face in expanding your services to even more people? We've seen the phenomenal growth of mobile money in Ghana. Sometimes we wonder, have you reached the peak? Have you provided a wallet to everybody that you need to? So what are some of the challenges that you're facing in reaching even more people and ensuring that there is this digital ecosystem exists so people can use these services? And also, if you can expand on some solutions that you are putting in place to ensure that more people are actually resilient to these shocks.
Thank you, William. I think in terms of how we've come, the challenges we've had to deal with, there's been a lot of work around fraud, which has been part of the challenges we've had to deal with. And you remember that during the pandemic, people had to jump into digital services or digital financial solutions without prior knowledge and experience. So one of the key things we had to do immediately was to step up customer education to make sure that people really understood what was required and can access their wallets, and also understands the requirements to mitigate any fraud. Because along those lines, we also saw increase in the fraud incidences. One of the interventions we've adopted this year is to introduce a requirement for customers to present an ID before they did a cash out. And that has mitigated significantly the fraud issues. We are reviewing that because since its implementation, we've had a lot of concerns expressed by a number of people who have looked at it also on financial inclusion and the fact that people may have genuine issues with IDs and all that. So with the coming of the national ID, a few reviews have gone on, and we will be taking a second look at it and implementing it differently going forward so that we can continue to support inclusion or financial inclusion as the case may be. The other thing we also had to deal with is also supporting the growth in customer base and our agent network to be able to provide adequate liquidity to support the agent network so that they can support customers. With the lockdown, it meant some of the channels that we had, physical channels, no longer could support. And so we had to look at digital solutions where we could facilitate support for these agents digitally. We had some partners who had some solutions that allowed agents to access short-term credits to expand and meet the growing demands. And therefore, that also came in handy. So that was also another challenge we had to deal with. There was also one key challenge where our service provider had COVID impact. I'm talking about the huge impact we had in India in particular, where some of our software resources sit. And so we had challenges with resources that impacted our speed to market with some of the solutions we had planned. That has since improved, and we've brought in some additional resources to support the backlog. And so we had some backlogs we had to deal with in terms of solution and innovation. So yeah, those specific challenges we had to deal with across the period. But we've also, like I mentioned, had some good work around innovations as well in terms of expanding our portfolio. And the partnership conversation continues to be very important for the work that we do. And today we have our Open API solution that is allowing fintechs and startups to connect to our platform without any human intervention. We facilitate that and we support their onboarding. We also support the innovations they put together, and that is also helping to introduce new solutions onto the platform and expand the ecosystem very quickly. So that's also one of the areas that we are working to try and improve innovations across the industry. Then there is also the partnership with the banks using the BankTech platform options, where today we have a number of our partners using the platform to provide microcredits to customers, and that will be expanding to further into our merchant space, our agent space, and so on. And that for me is also very key into the future, as well as the other smart payment solutions that are currently being developed to further support the digitization of the economy. Let me also add that there have been also discussions around crowdfunding. Part of it has been at the regulator level in terms of providing guidelines that would support things like that. So it's exciting, and we believe that the future can only get better with digital finance.
Thank you very much, Ellie. It's interesting that you mentioned the issues around fraud, because tomorrow our session is on fraud and data protection. Same time, same links. I hope people will be able to join. And we do have somebody from MTN again shedding a bit more light on this. So it's good that you've mentioned it. I think the call for the open APIs that you have, I think will be a great it's a great message for fintechs, because fintechs all like, and everybody wants some free APIs to connect. And that, I think, is actually expanding that digital ecosystem that we are talking about. Please keep your questions coming. We're getting a few questions, and I'll read them after we've gone through. So this is sort of our last round of questions. So I'll start with you, Ellie. So what is the future of mobile money operators in the broader financial services industry, where you see traditional banking and innovative fintechs sort of colliding? And you've spoken a lot about offering credit and offering all sorts of products that people would say are traditionally bank products. So where are we going, Ellie?
Like I mentioned earlier, I think the first part of it is the partnership opportunities that the future presents, and Geraldine spoke about it. AC has mentioned it. I mean, we've got to leverage the strength across the various industries and try and provide services that will meet the needs of our customers. So one person can't do it all by themselves. So that's one of the key things going forward. And I mentioned the solutions that we are trying to create. Those financial banking solutions are coming with respect to partnership with banks. So allowing banks to also leverage the mobile financial services ecosystem. So that's very key. And with these kinds of solutions also comes fintechs, who are in the middle, driving the innovation as much as possible. So everybody gets to share in the growth of the industry. So that's the first part of the conversation. And then I also see a lot of regulatory innovations as well. Today we are talking ECD. These are some of the things you expect to see going forward. Lots of innovations in that space as well to make the regulations itself very smart and support the fast-growing ecosystem of financial service delivery, fintechs, and so on. So we've got to make sure that space is not static. Otherwise, then we don't get the progress that can be achieved. And then today we are talking about eKYC. So all these things help to fast track onboarding of customers in this space, so that people can easily acquire wallets and quickly access financial solutions as much as possible. So that's also, we've had discussions with a partner who is providing that as part of the Open API, being able to onboard and access KYC information digitally from a partner also improves the speed. I talked about crowdfunding as well, and remittances remain a big part of this conversation as well, and how we can improve on the efficiencies within that space and access in particular for most of the people within our rural communities. Access becomes very important in terms of providing financial solutions to them. And then smart payment solutions would continue to come in to make the whole ecosystem even more efficient in terms of how we execute financial transactions. So that's where the future sits, and it will be partnership, it will be innovations, it will be investments, and I think it can only get better into the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ellie. I just want to push you a bit. So where do you think blockchain, cryptocurrency is in this? Is there a role for them?
Yes, there is. In fact, we will need to accommodate those as we go along. Otherwise, they force themselves into the ecosystem, and you don't want that kind of approach where you are forced to react or respond to their innovations or interventions. So it has to be consciously roped into the conversation to make sure that it is more controlled, to use the right word. And also we leverage the advantages that it brings as much as possible. So yes, it's got a role. We've just got to figure out how we incorporate that, and also how, from the regulatory standpoint, it can all be supported as much as possible. So we avoid the issues that will come up when we get caught up in the middle, where we now have to be reacting to its effect.
Thank you very much, Ellie. I think I have to go and look for my Bitcoin key, wherever that is now. Yeah. But thank you very much. Geraldine, so what is the next frontier for fintechs? And what new ideas are you working on that will continue to transform people's lives?
Great, thanks. Thanks for that. I think, look, what I see and where I see a lot of movement is that the rails have been laid. So whether that's agent networks or mobile money or digital onboarding, they set a foundation, and now it's on us and it's on the fintechs and it's on the banks and the telcos and everyone to start real product innovation. So bringing niche product offerings that can run and operate on those rails. So it could be things from agricultural lending, it can be SME products and merchant products, it can be digital insurance. There's no end of opportunities that exist. And the truth is that with the rails, and more importantly, with the data that we have, and if we use the data well, we now know so much more about our customers, and we can design products that really, and I know resilience is such an important topic for this session, but that also really helps us to provide markets that help people become more resilient. So for example, offering merchant credit that is tied to their intake rather than a set and predefined installment schedule, so that you can use the data to really understand how much they can afford to pay today, how much they can afford to pay tomorrow, and you become a very flexible financing partner for your customers. So certainly we see a lot of innovation around that data-driven and AI-driven products. I think one of the other big areas is the banking as a service. And again, that's just lies behind the partnership approach that we've already seen and has started with open APIs, but now it's evolving again, and it's providing a faster time to market for fintechs that want to come in, because they can now work with a bank that's providing bank as a service or as another provider, and they don't need to undergo all of the regulatory requirements themselves. And really what I love about that model is it plays to everyone's strength. It allows the traditional financial service providers to operate in the space that they know well. They've got the governance, they've got the compliance, and any customer who's availing themselves of a fintech offering knows that there is a formal financial institution behind that, and their deposits or their credit or whichever it is going to be safe. So I think that's also a key growth area. And perhaps one of the last ones is about the embedded finance, embedded and connected finance. So how do we make it more convenient? So again, an example on that could be, as somebody's buying an asset, and it could be a smartphone, it could be something quite small, but first of all, that is made as a very easy transaction that they can avail of, but something like insurance is added in to that offering. So at your fingertips, it's all there, and you're seeing that it's a number of different products and services that are offered through a single interaction with the customer. Now, the connected finances, perhaps for our market segment here, is a little bit different, but we certainly still see it happening, where through IoT, we're getting access to new types of data that could again be fueling agri-lending, so that we've got data coming in from weather stations or from drones or whichever it is, and that again informs us and helps us understand our clients better. So embedded and connected finance, I think, is quite key. So really, yeah, that's about it. Niche markets, going deeper, knowing our customers better, informed through data. It's not just about collecting the data now, it's about how do we use it wisely to understand our customers better.
Thank you very much, Geraldine. I mean, you've mentioned some really interesting sort of ideas here, but one of the key things is data, isn't it? You've mentioned a lot about data. And I don't know whether you have something small that you can say about data protection, because there's more data out there. There's a need for data protection. And we do have a session on that tomorrow, but I thought maybe you would want to say a few words on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, you know, especially within the financial inclusion sector, we have to be even more careful. I mean, it's one thing if you're, you know, able to get complex terms and conditions in front of a smartphone user, not that anyone really reads any of those. So it's about how do we take and how do we ensure that the education, and Ellie and Essie have both mentioned the need for that education, and it's not just about financial literacy, but it's also about customer protection. And I think, but I also think that, you know, us as fintechs have that moral responsibility to translate these complex terms and conditions into, you know, videos, whatever it is that are easier for people to understand. And, you know, I think a great example comes from Kenya with the digital lending. Everyone got very excited by the availability of digital lending, and nobody really realized that they could end up in the credit bureau. And as we all know, millions of people ended up in the credit bureau, and it had a huge impact on their lives. So, you know, we have to learn. There's markets and fintechs and providers that have learned those lessons the hard way. I think it's all on us to now take those lessons and make sure that we don't make them again in new markets and with new product offerings. And there's a lot that can be done on the technology side, as I said, with interactions, can be done through agents, can be done through outreach. So it just is something that we have to take care of.
Right. Thank you very much, Geraldine. And Essie, so looking into the future, we've seen some of the work that Fidelity has done over the past 15 years, which is very impressive. You've told us some of the innovative products that you have put in place. So looking into the future, next 5-10 years, where do you see financial inclusion going, you know, in terms of banking, providing banking and products, that we can ensure that we build a resilience of people, you know, in uncertain times?
I think here I would like to work with my fellow panelists on most of the things that they have said in terms of strategic partnerships, innovations, strategic partnerships in terms of our technical support, the fintechs that we work with, the MNOs, the ability to now integrate directly into MNOs, for instance, is fantastic, and it opens up a world of things for us to be able to do together, partner, and make sure that our customers are getting the right products and services, niche products and services, things for insurance, things for SME, making sure that the open APIs are being used to their advantage, going the extra mile. So apart from the MNOs and the fintechs, who else can we work with? A lot of the donor communities, we can partner with them to be able to go the extra mile within the communities, understand what is going on in the communities, and impact the life of people of the people in the communities. Like the work we are doing with UNCDF and Green on migration, it helps you understand what exactly is going on within the communities and partnering them. And then also, I think that one of the things that we have to make sure we use is that there are lots of existing structures within the communities that we can fall on to be able to expand on and work with them, to partner with them, to make them more resilient. For instance, in the community, they have VSLEs. And what work are we doing with the VSLEs to understand them better? That the VSLEs act like a sort of a social system, a social support group for themselves. And how can we partner with them to be able to do all the things we do, financial literacy, understand their needs, help them within their skill gaps, and even be able to solve some of the decision-making problems that they have, teaching them how to problem solve, etc. And I think, for instance, I think we did some work with scrap dealers, and we realized that once we got into the society, the group, we realized that a lot of them were getting hurt. Why don't you go to the hospital? Because we don't have insurance. How do you then get them to buy into the idea of insurance? You bring national insurance in, but at a point you start also training them and explaining them how they can get insurance, micro insurance for themselves, and be able to improve their lot. And with that, you're able to go into other financial services that will support them. Other groups, there are so many groups on the ground that you can work with, especially the vulnerable women, porters coming from the north. They come from the north into Accra with the idea to be able to carry things, and at a certain time go back and to marry, and some of them keep their money on them. But you need to understand the social construct of a group like this to be able to tap into it. So realize that if you go to them, you have to work with them on Sundays. On Sundays, they have a mother, and it's the mother that they work with. So how do you then build yourself into such a social construct to be able to add value to them? Okay, you could set up the mother as an agent, which we did, and then through that train them on financial literacy, and it improves their lot. How do you work with groups like the farmer-based organizations on the ground to be able to help them to work with the smallholder farmer? And in this ways, you collect your data and you're able to come up with niche products and services that will suit their need. And so there's so much you can do. The youth in cocoa, there's so many young people going to cocoa, but I mean, are they learning the business side? How can you partner? I think we did some work with Solidaridad. How do you partner with them to be able to train them in bookkeeping and to be able to train them further? So you have to work with them. There's a knowledge already existing in the communities. You add your knowledge to them. You come up with niche products and services that will suit the various markets. For instance, the cohorts with the Solidaridad, we taught them bookkeeping. We came up with basic ways. You go back and you train them and you train them, and they become more interested in the whole financial literacy. Their impacting lives one person at a time. And when you do that, you impact the whole community, you impact their families, you impact the communities, and you go on to impact the nation. So I think to make them resilient is about strategic partnerships, about the work we do together with the fintechs, about the work we do with MNOs, making sure that our platforms, the work we do with Software Group, for instance, making sure that our platforms are robust in order to go the next mile, so that they'll be able to transact, that the person in Nyankpala who can come to Tamale to transact business will be able to transact in a safe environment, a dignified environment, that they know that nobody's going to take my money as we go along. And you'll be impacting their lives and making a change one person at a time as you go along. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Essie. I mean, this is really some deep thoughts for all of us. Providing financial services to low-income people is really tough business. And I know all of you online, including myself, have been in this business for a very long time. And we still continue to be in it because we haven't solved all the challenges yet. Mm-hmm. Thank you very much for all these insights that you could hear. We have a couple of questions. We've got quite a lot of questions have come in, but we have time just to ask about 2 questions from the floor. So I'll read them out, and then I think you can answer. The first one goes to Essie. We're asking about what are the challenges customers face when they use, I think, the new onboarding platform for your smart account.
So for the new onboarding, initially we did not have the new voters ID on it. So an opportunity to get it on GVibe to be able to for customers to use. So that was a problem. Now with the Ghana card that is coming up, I think it will go a long way to be able to, for more customers to even come on board. Then of course, sometimes when there's a general connectivity issue, I mean, the system goes off, and then just creating awareness. So we need to create awareness, and bottom of the pyramid customers, yes, you can give them, they can self on board, but sometimes they need to go to the agent point for the agent to be able to support
Hello, I think AC. I think it's probably frozen for a bit. Maybe quickly move to the second question, which I think both Geraldine and Ellie can answer, can say a few words on. It says, how secured is the agency banking sector in terms of fraud? Do we have any challenges there? And how do we manage it? So this is, I mean, we've talked about fraud generally, but I think this is fraud especially for the agent point. So I don't know whether you want to start, Ellie, and then we move to Geraldine.
Well, thank you, William, and thanks for the question. In terms of the agency side or the agents, we do have constant interaction. We do have those interactions, first of all, to share any trends we pick up, to provide knowledge in terms of how to manage that. And also, we do that through our engagements with the agents in terms of our field engagements as well. So we share knowledge, first of all, with them, and then we also interact with them to bring them up to speed on any developments. And we do this as well with their leadership, so that we can disseminate the information through all channels as much as possible. For our bank branches as well, working as agents supporting service delivery, we have interactions at that level where we also share anything we pick up that will help them to improve on their processes. So that's part of the angle we use to improve on that. But otherwise, that part is not as significant as we find at the customer level.
Geraldine?
Yeah, very similar. I mean, certainly within our platform, we can support, and it starts usually at the customer authentication level. So how are we going to authenticate that you are who you say you are? And there are numerous different ways to do that. Either the customer initiates it from their mobile app if they have one, and they authenticate on that. And certainly that's the preferred approach and one that works very nicely. But there are other options. Fingerprint biometrics are used in some markets, especially where people are missing a national ID or perhaps don't have a phone, or there's just lower usage. So number one is about, yes, how do you authenticate the customer? But I think I echo Ellie's thoughts that really nothing replaces, and I would break it down to two things. It's the data analytics and the analysis that you're doing of the trends. And if somebody is doing some suspicious transaction, it's there in the data. And certainly we've seen that time and again, that, you know, you can see the predictive risks coming out in the data. So it's necessary to be very, very hands-on and acting on that. But yes, also nothing replaces as well the human interaction and the monitoring. So whether you have a hierarchy of agents and it's people checking in at all levels just to make sure that things are operating as they need to. So look, unfortunately, fraud is there, and as we innovate, the fraudsters very often innovate alongside us. So it's a never-ending topic, and I think it's a constant concern. But there are definitely ways, and for sure the benefits have mass outweighed the risks associated with agency banking.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Geraldine. But all too soon, we've come to the end of such an exciting discussion. We've been talking about the building resilient, inclusive financial ecosystems in uncertain times. And this has been brought to us by Fidelity, which is part of their Fidelity Financial Inclusion webinar series, which was done in conjunction with the Financial Inclusion Forum Africa and Financial Inclusion Africa. And as you said, this is a part of the ongoing Financial Inclusion Week 2021. I hope you all registered to learn other speakers and other topics that are going on this week. We have spoken about many things, but the key words that have stuck out is partnerships, the need for partnerships, the need for collaboration, the use of AI and data, and for product development. And we've seen some examples of good product development by all the people that have spoken today. especially after the digital rails have been laid. And I do like that fact that over the years, we've done a lot as an industry to lay the railings. So we've seen the telcos provide wallets. We've seen technology suppliers such as Software Group provide the infrastructure in terms of the agency platforms. We've seen banks such as Fidelity come up with some products or innovative products. So the railings are there, but we need to do more. And also, what also excites me in this area is that there are lots of vulnerable people that are still financially excluded. In Africa, we say it's gone up. It's probably about 40% banked, but that means there's 60% or so who are still not enjoying the services. And as we put in more digital financial services, the digital exclusion also is likely to increase if we do not add or bring them into the picture when we are designing products and services. Talk about people with disabilities, women, youth, refugees, and these are few of the groups that need particular attention as we develop financial services for vulnerable populations. And I want to thank my panelists. We had AC Mills Robertson, who is the Director, Inclusive Banking for Fidelity Bank Ghana. Elihini, who is the CEO, Mobile Money Limited, MTN Ghana. And Geraldine O'Keefe, who is the co-founder and Chief Innovation Officer, Software Group. So thank you very much, all the panelists, for giving us such deep insights on this, and we could talk forever about these issues. Once again, I want to remind you that we do have a session tomorrow on fraud and data protection using the same link tomorrow at 10 a.m. GMT. So please join us on that session. And on Wednesday in the morning, we have a session on e-currencies where we have people from Ghana and Nigeria, because Nigeria just launched their e-currency, Ghana too has their e-currency, and we want to start sharing ideas. And as we heard on the panel, that's one of the innovations or innovation that is going to impact the way we do finance. So thank you all once again for joining us on this series, on this event, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Goodbye.
Likewise.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Over the years, Ghana has made great strides in the economy with youth entrepreneurship and technological innovation. The push for digitization of the economy is also in keeping pace with the rest of the world. It is no wonder that in 2019, the World Bank adjudged Ghana as the fastest growing mobile money market in Africa. However, Ghana risks a slowdown in growth if the numbers of the unbanked or underbanked remain at current levels. The government aims to reach 85% financial inclusion by 2023, catching up with success stories like Rwanda, where more than 9 in 10 of their citizens have access to formal and informal financial services. When Fidelity Bank rolled out a system in 2013 where anyone could perform basic banking duties at the community pharmacy, supermarket, or barbershop, it was not just the beginning of the process to bring banking to the doorsteps of the unbanked and underbanked, but it was also the realization of the bank's commitment to championing financial inclusion. For a country where roughly 70% of the adult population is outside the formal banking sector, financial inclusion remains at the heart of the bank's vision. Indeed, Fidelity Bank has played a large part in advancing financial inclusion nationwide and across economic sectors. As the largest privately owned Ghanaian bank, Fidelity Bank has made a mark on Ghanaians overcoming two of the greatest barriers to financial inclusion: physical access and mindset change.
Globally, there's a lot of evidence that financial inclusion, which means access to financial products, meaning access to a bank account, access to loans, access to insurance products, access to any form of financial product, savings accounts, helps alleviate poverty. People who drop out of school are likely to come from poor homes, who are likely to come from backgrounds where they don't have access to financial services. So there's a whole global movement to promote financial inclusion. And when we began the bank in about 2006, less than 25% of Ghanaians had access to financial products and services, had a bank account, could access a loan product and other financial products. So we took this on as an important objective of the bank, being the largest Ghanaian bank, to make Ghana more financially inclusive. When we set out to create Fidelity Bank, our vision was to create a world-class Ghanaian bank. And the purpose of that world-class Ghanaian bank was to contribute significantly towards socio-economic development in Ghana. So that was the why. That was why we woke up to go to work. And we identified a number of areas where we could intervene in this socio-economic development. One was financial inclusion. The next pillar was supporting SMEs, small and medium-scale enterprises. The next pillar was to contribute towards the infrastructure deficit. We have financed 5 out of the last 10 power projects in Ghana. This includes Athol Energy, it includes Gensa Power, it includes the Pony Thermal Power Plant, and also includes the GCAD Senate Power Plant in Tema. In addition to power, we've been involved in housing. We finance Manette Village, Manette Cottage, we finance Villaggio Vista, and we've supported a lot of Ghanaians with mortgages. By contributing with these initiatives, we're really helping to solve socioeconomic challenges and development challenges of Ghana.
With the establishment of Fidelity's Inclusive Banking Department, whose mandate is to drive the bank's financial inclusion agenda, Fidelity Bank was stating its intent to bring aboard those who were either skeptical of the banking system or were simply used to functioning outside of the banking system.
Digitization and technology has helped the bank leapfrog some of the obvious barriers with regards to driving financial inclusion. Some of these barriers are cost to serve and cost to acquire. By leveraging on the increased penetration of mobile phones, we've been able to deliver platforms that enable us to do these two things seamlessly and enhance the engagement levels with that target group.
In 2017, Software Group, a global technology company specializing in digitalization and integration solutions for financial service providers, seamlessly migrated Fidelity's inclusive banking customers and agents onto Fidelity Bank's core banking system. Transactions, agent management, and administration were then fused together and hosted on the Agent Management System, AMS, that Software Group developed.
Since the founding of Software Group over a decade ago, critical to our mission and our vision is the acceleration of digital technologies that will advance financial inclusion and inclusive banking. So for us, it was a really excellent fit, and we were really excited to get on board. Agency in particular is something that is really core to our expertise. So yeah, it was a perfect match. Markets are things that change really fast. And I think Ghana in particular is a very dynamic market, especially in the digital field. There's a lot of innovation and there's a lot of players and stakeholders in the market. So, you know, a scope that you may consider in 2017 when we first started, you know, may need changes along the way and continuous improvements to keep up with the market and stay ahead of the market. Some of the challenges were, no, we can't just look at this as something that starts here and ends here. We have to have this sort of continuous improvement dynamic. And I think what we've tried to do is introduce a lot more agile methodology with Fidelity Bank as our partner to implement those continuous improvements at a pace that makes sense for their clients and for the market. The digital banking platform is really the innovation. On one side of the spectrum, you have a feature phone user who is completely unbanked. In the middle of the spectrum, you have a feature phone user who maybe has a mobile banking account but nothing else. They're sort of semi-banked. And you also have smartphone users who have everything at the touch of their, at the tips of their fingers. Agency is actually a solution where all of them share common ground. They can all interact with an individual, but those touch points can be spread dramatically. And when you have a platform backing that up, you can then use that really great baseline that you've created through multiple agent touch points that enable all of these individuals to sort of get the services that they need and even graduate along that sort of continuum of digitalization. And then you add value-added services to that, right? So then you can put more services onto that platform, which then sort of allows people to access better and better, financial services, financial products, or even other value-adding services that may not be directly related to banking at agent locations. And I think for us, it's really that digital banking platform concept that allows you to evolve off of the great baseline that you can create through all of these touch points that service, an entire market.
Fidelity Bank became the first financial institution licensed by the Bank of Ghana to undertake the agency banking model in Ghana back in 2013. From a modest pilot of 24 agents and about 30,000 smart accounts in 2013, the bank's move into agency banking has steadily evolved into a major undertaking with approximately 5,000 agents dotted around the country today.
Financial inclusion is very important for the Bank of Ghana. Our mandate is to promote macroeconomic stability through promoting price stability and financial stability. To be able to build an economy that is strong and resilient, and that is also broad-based in terms of the participants in the economy, we believe that making sure that every Tom, Dick and Harry who is within Ghana has access to good financial services. We put in place the framework and we expect banks to take advantage of it. Fidelity has, to my knowledge, about 4,000 of these agents. It's deployed across the country that are mobilizing deposits on a daily basis from active members of the communities who are doing business. And so we definitely believe that it is in the right direction. What this does is that we're promoting access for everyone who would normally need the services of a bank, who may be too intimidated to walk into a bank branch, assuming there's even a bank branch close to them. And what we're doing with these, with banks like Fidelity deploying 4,000 agents, means that jobs are created for 4,000 people at least in the case of Fidelity. And this really is very important. What we also find is that a lot of these agents tend to be women, and that also helps to promote access to finance for women, which is also a key theme under the Bank of Ghana's financial inclusion work.
A financially inclusive nation is a thriving nation. Fidelity Bank has taken the first steps to combine the formal and informal sectors of the economy to change the face of banking at the community level across Ghana. When local businesses grow, we all grow, because together we are more. Become a Fidelity Bank agent or patronize one near you today. Agency banking is powered by Software Group. Fidelity Bank. Believe with us.